This is John Musgrave. Thanks for clicking on the podcast. If you like this content or like this episode, please click the like button or even subscribe. Thanks very much. Because I go to Rick Benny over by Boba Beans. I have to pass that building. It's the smell of death. And that's what, in that building to me is like a Christian to the non-Christian. It's a reminder of things they don't want to be reminded of. Now, number two. It's the number two, the guilt they feel. We walk in the room and we're a reminder that the guilt they feel is because God's law is written on their hearts. It's a reminder to them that, they know they feel guilty, right? You watch Seinfeld, there's no talk of God there except for a great scene that I saw flash. I get on Facebook now, these Seinfeld scenes flash up at me. And whenever I need a break, I'm like, boop, boop, boop. And it's the scene where Elaine discovers that Putty's, all his presets are on the Christian radio stations, on Christian rock. And so she's, like, oh, it's so good. The whole episode's just so funny with a number of things. But she's upset that, that Putty hasn't told her about God. She says, do you think I'm going to hell? And he says, yeah. She says, well, why, isn't that a problem for you? He says, not a problem for me. You're the one that's going to hell. Which is a great statement to us about doing evangelism, right? Yeah. But George says, I like Christian rock. It's positive. And I like when people talk about God. There's not a lot of talk about God going on right now. But where this people know about God, but they know there's guilt on their hearts. In Seinfeld, that's what the whole show is about. How selfish can I be without feeling that guilty and without being exposed for being selfish? That's the bottom line of every character's plot line in every episode. Everyone's dealing with guilt today. And Paul deals with that, and what Paul read, or what Paul, you're welcome, and what Bob read to us this morning from Romans 2:24 and 25. Non-believers, Gentiles, in Paul's context there, they feel guilty when they do wrong. And Paul says it's evidence that the law of God is written on their hearts. Not all the ceremonial law, the stuff of Moses and priests and what sacrifice you should offer and all the details, but love God and love your neighbor is written on every human heart. And so even the Seinfeld gang, when they know they cheat somebody or do something that gives them some advantage and someone else a disadvantage, they feel guilty and they hope they're not exposed for it. But the reason they feel guilty is because imprinted on their hearts, even the real Jerry Seinfeld writing this material, that what's written on their hearts is that you should love your neighbor. That I should treat another person with dignity because he bears God's image as I do. And so when I don't, there's something wrong with that. And if someone condemns me for it, I'm rightly condemned. I mean, I can make excuses to mollify that a little bit, but I'm rightly condemned. And so when we walk in a room, we remind people the reason you feel guilty is because God exists and his law is on your hearts. And that guilt that you feel is a pre-showing of final judgment that you also know is coming. It's evidence of the fact that there is a moral law in the universe that transcends cultures and that you will be judged by it. And you get these mini judgments every time you feel guilty. You know you should be loving God. You know you should be loving neighbor, and you're not, and that's why you feel guilty. And when we walk in a room, we remind people of that without a word. That's why we're a problem, a smell of death, and why non-believers just want to be around other non-believers so they can do their non-believing things, as Paul says there in 132. Not only do they practice these very things, but they approve those who are doing these things as well. They want to be around people, and that's the case in, my fraternity. Somebody gets drunk, we're like, yeah, give him another one. It's justification. Somebody else is doing this wrong thing, And so I guess there's not a moral law because everyone's doing it. And then you walk in the room. It's like, oh. Right? So we're a reminder that the guilt that they feel is because God's moral law is written on their hearts. Romans 2:14 and 15. And then third thing the unbeliever knows. So the unbeliever knows God exists. The unbeliever knows that God's law exists, as proven by the fact they feel guilty when they do wrong, and they also feel good about themselves when they do something good. Great. They're framed for that to be the case. When they do something that's not quite so selfish, when they do something that takes effort and is good for somebody else, they feel good about themselves, and that's inbuilt, and that's the way it should be. That's the way we're framed. But the third thing they're reminded of, the third thing that the non-believer knows is they